Hi, Kat, and thank you very much for giving us some of your time today. Unfortunately, you will not be able to come to iDocs. I know you wanted to come, but there you go. So we'll try to do a little interview via Skype, and hopefully that will be your presence at iDocs. I've seen you've been nominated for Highrise has been nominated actually for an international Digital Emmy Award. So that sounds very exciting news.
Yeah, we're really honored. Everyone on the team is thrilled.
So you should know by April, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the winner is announced on April 4th.
Fantastic. And this is for the whole of Highrise, correct?
This is for Out My Window specifically.
Oh, specifically.
First major global documentary to come out of a much larger project called Highrise that's a multi-year, multimedia project at the NFB.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you, because you always define your project as a multi-year and multimedia. And I was wondering, how many years do you plan Highrise to go on for, and how many medias do you think you would want to explore?
Well, primarily Highrise is an experimental project. So the idea is that we don't need to define the media before we've even started. This is the second pretty major project that I've been doing at the National Film Board of Canada. The first one was called Filmmaker in Residence, and we started that in about 2004. YouTube didn't even exist when we started. So what we're trying to do is not be too predictive about what kinds of technologies and what kinds of platforms, what kind of opportunities are available to us as tools in our toolkit. What we're focusing on is really an experimental approach, not just in form, but also in content. So what I look for at the beginning of the project is really just to build up the research and to try to understand the documentary subject, the content itself, in a different way than a more conventional approach where you actually define your media and then you find your content to fit that form. So it's really experimental in both sides, and it's slated to be a 4-year project when we're about a year and a half in.
Right. No, I think this is exactly what is exciting about what you do, is that, it's clearly, you can see that it's an experiment, an ongoing experiment, and especially about Out My Windows. I've seen that so far it seems to have had 3 different forms, if I understood well. I mean, it sits on the web as a web documentary. It was shown as a live screening, if I'm not wrong, but especially the thing that really interests me is you presented it as a physical installation at the Doc Lab this year, and I was wondering, the fact that it has 3 lives, how do you consider those 3 lives together? I mean, are they collaborating to each other? Are they saying different things? Is it part of this transmedia trend, or do you see it differently?
I think the way in which we distribute or in which we try and present some of the content to users and audiences is just part of the experimental process that really flows out of the entire process of making Out My Window. So it's not unusual for me to have multiple ways in which we try and work with the content and find different native homes for it. In terms of the installation, we were in talks for many months with the Canadian Film Centre. They have a new media lab there under the direction of Anna Serrano. And together with her and interactive artist Priam Jivol, we wanted to see how we can take stories about space that we've represented on a screen on the internet, on a very small screen for the internet, and how we could take these stories and reimagine them back in a physicalized space. And that was very exciting for me in terms of, I think, storytelling itself becoming more spatialized. We're starting to see space as one of the axes within which we can play as we tell stories. So
what did it look like? What did it look like? Because I couldn't go, and I think lots of people at iDocs would not be able to have gone there. I mean, I was quite curious.
We're about to launch a small video that will represent the show itself. So we're just working hard on a relaunch this week. So hopefully by the time you see this at iDocs, there will be some video documentation. But essentially, in Amsterdam, you entered a large room in a beautiful gallery called Brakke Grond, which means breaking ground. It's a wonderful experimental, cutting-edge gallery. It's a Belgian. It's actually a Flemish art institute. And you walk into a big space, it's quite dark, but at the end of the room, there's a large lattice of hand-built screens built out of frames. So it looks a little bit like that collage effect that you see in the website. It's about 8 meters wide and maybe 3 meters tall. And the stories, first of all, the floors come on, so they slide on, and you can see all the layered effects. So there's a little bit of a trickery going on in terms of some of the collage being physical, where the screens are physically separated from one another. But then on top of that, the software we use, which is powered by Derivative, it's a software company in Toronto that's used a lot by VJs in doing real-time editing during sort of mashups between imagery and sound. We had them build a new tool which allows us to edit with more precision. And so we also have virtual 3D effects within the projection itself. So it had this really nice kind of mixture of layers. And then what we did was we took the stories. We did 3 cities. We did Toronto, Havana, and Amsterdam. And then we took the stories themselves and we exploded them across the whole screen, again spatializing them. So we'd often take sort of an environmental shot. For example, in Cuba, in Havana, we took a shot, for example, of the ocean, a very, very big, huge, wide landscape. And then as we unfolded the story, we popped the little photos matching the horizon. And so you get this sense of space and place and environment in a way that I think, in some ways, I liked much better.
Right, yeah.
Storytelling than this very, very small.
So the content is the same, but it's the way it's embodied and, you know, and lived through by the audience that totally changes.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And so do you think that was a new experiment for you? Do you think it adds to your own understanding of what documentation could be?
In terms of documentary?
Yeah.
Because I see a huge difference between documentation and documentary. So.
You're correct, actually, yes. But I was wondering, you know, whether this is, you know, still part of the documentary itself, or whether it's, you know, something that you've done on the side as an experiment.
But the whole project is an experiment, so it's very much in the spirit of the project.
Of the whole project. Okay, fair enough. And so what is next in Out My Window and High Rise? Any scoop you can give us or something like that?
Well, I think by the time iDocs begins, we will have launched the next phase, which is a reboot to the main site, to highrise.nfb.ca. But importantly, what we're launching is something called Participate, Out My Window Participate. It's a phenomenal project headed up by one of our lead team members here in Toronto. Her name is Paramita Nath. And it's what it is a showcase of user-generated photos and stories of people's own photographs out their window. So we've been collecting photographs through a Flickr group, and we take that API and put it into this beautiful showcase that allows you to navigate and work through the photographs and the stories in very associative ways. So, for example, you can choose a collection by color. In every story, any word that's repeated in another story, you can tag through, so you can kind of work through the material according to tags. And wow. The front home page is beautiful. It's a carousel of windows, beautiful windows, and every time you scroll through them, a different photograph pops in from behind. And so it's just a nice way to experience user-generated photographs that kind of takes it a little bit above Flickr and moves it into a different kind of experiential space. So
Fantastic.
We're really, really excited. We have over 500 photographs already in the collection. A phenomenal, very, very political, some of them are very, very political. We have an amazing set of photographs that have been sent in from Alexandria, Egypt, for example. So really, really interesting view on contemporary and meditative life around the world.
Well, we shall be following that for sure, and keep following anyway High Rise with lots of interest. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, thanks so much.